This is Charles I's copy of the complete works of Shakespeare.
What makes it such a moving book to have, and particularly to have here in Windsor, is that it was your predecessor, King Charles I.
It was read and annotated by Charles I while he was imprisoned during the Civil Wars. Here in Windsor Castle, he was reading it, and he was reading it more or less up until he was executed.
And what do we know which plays he was reading?
Well, that's the fascinating thing, because he knew all the plays well. Although you would sort of feel in those terrible circumstances, the histories and the tragedies maybe not the best place to be, given what happens to kings.
If I just turn to the first page of The Tempest and the contents page, we can see where he's started writing in
that's his
characters. This is Charles I's handwriting.
It's rather good, his handwriting, isn't it?
It is quite beautiful.
It is really beautiful.
So we don't know quite what he was doing here. We know that, for example, Benedick and Beatrice was an alternative title for Much Ado About Nothing, and the play was tended to be known as that at the time.
And then he just put Malvolio down by
Twelfth Night. And here's Pyramus and Thisbe next to Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah.
And I think of them as quite minor characters, so I don't know why he's...
How strange it must
he's put
be.
them there. It must mean aid memoir or something.
Train of thought was there.
Or do you think these are his favourite characters from the play?
Yes, maybe.
Or the ones he enjoyed most?
Extraordinary. It's so wonderful that it's lasted and it's legible, and the inks.
Exactly.
The inks stayed.
And people thought he might have been reading Richard II, which was about another king who was deposed. But no, we can see here that he's been reading the comedies. And,
well, he
or
probably
the
did it to sort of make him feel happier.
Well,
exactly.
exactly.
Perhaps he needed a laugh.
Apparently he was reading Shakespeare and Ben Jonson while he was in prison, as well as scriptures and all the things he ought to be reading. But I know Milton was particularly not very impressed that this was what Charles was spending his time doing. The other place where he's annotated it is here, up here, which is his motto, Dum Spiro Spero, and then he's written CR underneath. And Dum Spiro Spero means while I breathe, I hope. And he was writing this in a lot of the books he was reading while he was imprisoned, which is rather poignant.
Again, it sends the shivers down your spine.
So this book's actually annotated by two kings, Charles I and George III. So this is where George III corrected George Stevens, who was saying that Thomas Herbert was Master of the Revels, and George III said he wasn't. He was Gentleman of the Bedchamber. Thomas Herbert was the man to whom Charles I gave this book.
Yeah. Fascinating. Honestly, you must have such fun.
It's just wonderful, and to know that this book had such an important place in Charles I's life, and that it was also important to George III.
I've got a wonderful, great big, all the collected plays of Shakespeare. Beautifully bound, was given to me long ago for my 21st birthday, I think. But I filled it with all sorts of markers, with endless comments on the plays I saw at Stratford.
Charles I was 15 when Shakespeare died, and Shakespeare was, of course, performing at the royal court, and it's possible that Charles I actually met him when he was a child or saw him perform, and so we've got that direct link, perhaps, from Charles I to Shakespeare as well. These are little bookmarks at the beginning of each play to help you find where they are.
Way of doing
yes, there are little notes on each one with the titles of the play, and we don't know if this was Charles himself as well. Yes. It just goes to show that someone was reading this book and wanted to find out where the plays were and was,
Yeah, they're not just books that are sitting there put on show. They're books that have actually been read and read and read.
In this way, we could just access those people from the past. Yeah.
No, you can delve back into history, can't you?
It's just wonderful.
No, absolutely lovely. Goodness, you could spend forever here, couldn't you?
Well, yes, I hope to. I try to.
Got a jolly nice job.
I do. I'm very lucky.